Hey creeps! One goal that I had for myself this year was to create a surface pattern design portfolio that I would then present to various clients for licensing and hopefully one day have my own fabric line. While I'm still in the portfolio building stage of my journey, I thought it would be fun to document my progress as well as provide value by demonstrating the skills and techniques that I'm picking up along the way. For those unfamiliar, surface pattern design is a seamless repeated pattern applied to a product such as gift wrap, fabric, or wallpaper, whereas surface design is any print that is not a repeat that's applied to a product surface, including greeting cards, packaging, and t-shirt graphics. Today I'll be showing you how to create your own seamless repeat pattern in Illustrator that you will then use to print your own custom material through Spoonflower. Welcome to the channel, the place to come for spooky, DIY, home, and lifestyle content all year long. Let's go make some custom fabric. Before diving in, I first wanted to identify the story behind the collection I was creating, as well as key elements or icons I wanted to incorporate in the line. In short, if Mary Shelley created a line of repeat patterns to be used for clothing and home furnishings, this would be that line. I sketched up some super rough ideas of different prints I could create before getting into drawing my assets. To capture the fluid organic shapes of the florals that I wanted to incorporate, I decided to go purchase a watercolor pad and some gouache. Gouache is basically a watercolor paint that can be more opaque depending on the amount of water you're adding. I looked at some images on the internet for reference, but in the end found myself winging it and making a variety of doodles that I could pick and choose from. Some of the elements that I wrote down to potentially be included were skulls, dark moody florals, cobwebs, gothic architecture, lace, cameos, ravens, and damask prints. For the skull, I took a variety of photos from different angles of some plastic ones that I had lying around. I then took photos of my gouache drawings and placed all these photos in my Illustrator project. When starting my project in Illustrator, I made sure to select RGB in the color mode field and 150 dpi in the raster effects field. Once resizing and eliminating all the photos I didn't need, I attempted to use the image trace tool on one of the skull photos, which didn't work quite as well as I wanted, so I switched up strategies and instead diverted to the pen tool to trace out my image. To save time, I drew a vertical line to divide my skull in half to later copy paste and mirror the one skull half to make a complete skull. So that my skull photo and vertical dividing line didn't move while I traced, I made sure to lock these objects before I started. To give the skull more dimension, I wanted to include the crevices of the gum line, the shadowing that occurs right where the nose meets the head, as well as the brow line. Even though I thought I might not use certain lines, I still included them just in case I found them appealing once the strokes were no longer on top of the reference image. After my tracing was complete, I copied my skull and vertically reflected the half to complete the skull vector. Then it was a matter of dialing in the eye, nose, and jaw shapes and refining the areas that will later appear as translucent shadows. To translate my gouache sketches to vectors, I once again used the image trace tool and began pulling the doodles that I liked best and arranging them around the skull vector in a way that resembled that iconic damask print. For as long as I can remember, I've always been an avid fabric purchaser and gawker. I worked at a fabric retailer for many years, and I suspect my love for fabric contributed to me sticking around for as long as I did. While I will buy material types that fall within the apparel category, I usually gravitate to the printed quilting cottons. Some of my favorite quilt fabric designers include Tula Pink for her whimsical and thoughtful designs, Melody Miller for her bold and retro style, Sarah Watts for her hand-drawn textures and love for Halloween, and Cave Fassett for his neon florals. For the spooky folks in the group, I would definitely recommend checking out Tula Pink's Deja Vu Nightshade collection, which features Victorian cameos of witchy ladies, lacy ravens, potion bottles, and crescent moons. This collection was originally released in 2011 to 2012, and then re-released as of July 2023, but I think you can still purchase this collection from online quilt shops and Etsy sellers. After getting my vectors mostly arranged how I wanted them to be, I then began prepping the piece for filling certain elements and areas with color. I knew that I wanted the skull to be a different color from the background, so I traced half the outline to later repeat, then reflect and join to create its own fill. Over the last handful of years, I have started transitioning our decor in the apartment to something that I like to refer to as goth light, meaning there's skulls, gothic arches, antique ornate frames, cloches, tapered candles, and sconces, and the occasional tassel, but instead of defaulting to the traditional color palette of black and or jewel tones, we have the juxtaposition of these macabre pieces in playful shades of orange and turquoise with a sprinkling of black and white for cohesiveness. Both Micheal and Joann both released gothic or dark academia decor lines recently, which gets me excited that the style is becoming more accessible for us spooky kids to purchase, not just when Halloween decor hits the shelves, but possibly all year long. For some of the flowers, I must have accidentally deleted some of the fill, so I simply used the paintbrush to create a new fill that I then sent behind the outline vector.
Hope is such an evil thing, always keeps me wondering, maybe you'll be here one day, or maybe it's reason enough to stay, 'cause I just can't fight the feeling, no I just can't fight the feeling anymore.
To create a color palette, I went and retrieved some of the photos I took at the Swan Island Dahlia Festival last year and created 8 to 10 circles to capture color selections using the eyedrop tool. I then went in and altered some of the colors in my design to give a little more variety. After adjusting my colors, I then duplicated my design to create the repeat. During this step, it's a great time to see how well the design fills the surface area and make any adjustments if needed. I found that I didn't love how the bottom point looked, so I deleted what I had placed there and tried out a few different assets before landing on an option. Once solidifying my design, I then needed to make sure that my repeat was super accurate. To do this, I drew a box around the repeat and then adjusted the width and length measurements in the properties panel to be easy to remember values. I then deleted all the vectors touching the left side of the square and selected everything touching the right side. I then right-clicked and went to transform, then move, adjusted the horizontal measurement to be the width of the square, and then clicked copy. This should duplicate your assets on the left side of the square to be on the right side as well. Then we get to repeat the previously done steps for the assets touching the top and bottom of the square. So to start, I deleted my design touching the square's bottom, selected the design touching the top, went to transform, move, put the length of the square in the length field, then went to copy to duplicate. To make your pattern swatch, simply select all assets of your repeat, then go to Object, Pattern, then Make. This will open up a preview screen of how your repeat pattern looks and allows you to make adjustments if needed. I was happy with my pattern, so I went up to Save a Copy, gave my print a name to then be saved to the Swatches panel. To check my repeat for errors as well as do colorways and adjust the print scale, I drew a square and then filled it with my just created pattern swatch. My print was a little large as is, so I right-clicked and went to transform, scale, made sure to check the adjust print only box, then decreased the percentage in the uniform field. Before getting into color editing, I needed to create a color group in my swatches panel. To do this, I selected all my color swatches, went to new color group, renamed the group, and selected artwork. With my colors saved in a place that the Edit Colors tool will be able to reference, I went up to Edit, Edit Colors, Recolor Artwork. Once the window opens, go into Advanced Options, select your saved color group in the Color Groups column, and simply click and drag colors to the different rows to alter the colors in your artwork. Once I came up with a colorway I really liked, I adjusted the scale one last time before dragging the artwork to a new project window to adjust the artboard to be slightly smaller than the artwork. Doing this will eliminate any lines or print breaks in your design once you import it into Spoonflower. I then exported my art as a PNG with the Use Artboards box checked, and then imported my art into Spoonflower and went with a yard worth of the Petal Signature Cotton because as of this moment I'm unsure what I'll be making with it. I had a lot of fun working on this project, and I hope that you found it as useful as I found it fun to do. Let me know in the comments if you're a fabric nerd as well, and if you get far too enthusiastic by most people's standards by a thoughtfully designed hero print. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so, and thank you as always for visiting my creepy craft corner of the internet and for watching till the end. Now let's see those final shots.